show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, my name is Gwendolyn Lambert Smalls, and welcome to Shall the Bough Break podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Havana syndrome. I get a lot of questions on what is the Havana syndrome and what does it feel like. So it's up to me to try to describe to you in detail as much as I can within 30 minutes of what it feels like, what it does to me, and how I know it affects our community. First, I would like to let you know a little bit about me. I'm an author, I'm an activist, and I am person who makes speeches online. As you can see, the Havana syndrome is acting up, so it will be acting out while we're on stage. But I want you to know that we will continue. So, Havana syndrome, for those of you who remember, back in 2016, President Obama went to Cuba, and he
As y'all can see, she was dropped. I don't know what happened. Every time she comes on, it is always something that is constant with this broadcast. So y'all just bear with her. She will try to get back on. Um, the enemy is busy, and the enemy is mad. She's talking about something that has been affecting our community for a while. And when you don't know, you don't know. But once you come into the knowledge and you begin to share, we have to understand that the enemy is going to come against you. And I thank her for coming on and her willingness to be a part of the podcast and to share her story because she has truly been affected by the Havana syndrome. Again, if you guys do not know what the Havana syndrome is, because I too was taken away when finding out a little bit about this syndrome. It is real, and it is something that our government has used to to manipulate the people. And people think that these things don't happen, but it's been proven. Even our president, um, Barack Obama, passed legislation, had things passed and put in action to recognize this. So know that this is real. And when you hear her, sometime when you first hear about it, it may seem off to you guys, but just listening and then doing your own research. That's why I tell you, when you hear us on these podcasts, don't just believe the things that we say, but go back and do your own research so that you can know for yourself that that is a part of why we do what we do. We do our research on our end so that we can be covered, but we want you to dive deep and find out for yourself, because when you come into the knowledge of things, then you're able to apply it and you're able to um, utilize it for your best interest. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully she'll be able to get back on. The enemy's upset with her because she has been exposing this for a while, even going back to her brother being murdered, because we all know what happened. He was murdered in police custody, and it's sad. She's talked about that story right here on the podcast. Hopefully, we can get her back on, because I'm sure that there were some things that she wanted to talk about tonight. So I'm gonna hang around and see if she's able to get back on. If I have to call her and maybe let her come on audio today, until we figure out, because evidently y'all see what's going on. She was here and everything was fine. And then as soon as we went live, to what 2 minutes into the podcast, she gets booted out. So let me call her. I'm going to call her on the phone and see if I can get her on the phone, and we're gonna bring her in that way, y'all. But y'all know we don't stop over here on the Crew Podcast because we know that there's a we have a duty, we have a mandate. There's stuff that we're supposed to be getting out to those that tune in and listen to this show. So let me try to get her on the line, y'all. Not sure what's going on her end, but y'all know I'm gonna do what I can on my end to make sure that this podcast go forth. So let's see if we can get her on the line and bring her in audio if that's, because y'all know me. I don't quit. I don't quit. I don't quit. So it's ringing. We're gonna see if we can get her on. Gonna see if we can get her on, y'all. Gonna see if we can get her on. We're having the same problems as we did last week. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on because you was fine. I mean, so go ahead and you can go ahead and talk whatever you want, whatever you're gonna do. But you might want to see about finding you a tablet or something else. But you're live, so go ahead and you're gonna have to do it audio. They can hear you. Thank you. So thank you, Angela. So what I want to do is let you guys know what we discussed about me being an author and how I wrote 2 books. The first one was Got a Police Custody, was called Gwendolyn. The second one that we're going to talk about tonight is Hidden in Plain Sight, which is about the frequency that President Obama saw when he went to Cuba in 2016. He must have saw something. So whatever he saw over there, he came up with the name because he was in Havana, Cuba. And then in 2021, Biden signed it into law. So when I tell people my story about this frequency that's on my head, the first thing they ask me is, what does it feel like? What does it sound like, the noise in my ears? And as you can hear, my speech is being compromised. So I've explained to them that's what Biden signed into law in 2021 because I'm letting them know this is real. Does it sound like? It sounds like in my ears, crickets, static sometimes, and sometimes a beeping noise. Like one ear have a buzzing sound, and then swing to the other ear. And then it sounds like a 3D printer on my head. That's what it feels like. But it's prickering the top of my right hand side of my head that goes all the way down to my eye, to my tongue. That's why my tongue is stuck, because it's like a suction. It's almost like it's trying to suck me out of my chair, but it's stuck in my tongue in its proper place inside of my mouth. So that's why I sound a little strange. But I want to get into the story of my book, Hidden in Plain Sight. Now, some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight is going to be a little bit too mature for young adults. So I want to let you know that so you can have time enough you can get them out of the room. Or you can listen to this in a private setting where they're not exposed. Unless you hear something and you feel like they need to know about it, then it's up to your discretion. So, now, first I want to talk about my brother Ray for a little bit. Now, Ray got in police custody in 2013, which inspired me to write my first book, inspired me to write my second book, Havana Syndrome. And he was tased over 20 times outside of the hospital doors while he was waiting to go inside. So it inspired me to do this book, and inspired me to do my second book that I knew he also had it because of his behavior, his desires, his decision making. All of that was a little off. But then you would see it as though that's a little crazy, that person got a little crazy, or that person ain't right in the head, or that person is right in the head. There's something wrong with that person, or that person don't know how to think right, or wasn't raised right. Those are symptoms of Havana Syndrome also. Now, the detail of it, it stings my head, it burns my head from the laser. What is a laser? How can you see it? Some people say you can't see it with the naked eye. This is something that is done hidden in plain sight.
but you can see me dress up, you can see me look great, but then when you see me out in public or in a private setting, you can see Havana syndrome act out even more because sometimes the pain is so severe that I have to yell out in public and get everyone noticing looking at me. I have to go into the long story of President Obama and Biden. Now, being a human being, what is it like being a human being and being researched, critically? It's a horrible feeling. It really is. It's a feeling to have somebody have a laser on your head and it's manipulating your thoughts, creating events in your life that causes you to have to act it out and go into your own personal life, which is not. And I can say that, especially when it's about my husband. My husband and I were in an arranged marriage, great. And that's one of the other things I'm going to talk about too, besides getting back to where my hair was falling out. So the laser made my hair fall out. It's the stinging sound. So it's stinging like a rolling sewing machine on the top of my head. And my hair was, I'm rubbing it, I'm scratching it, I'm itching it. It was itching and I'm scratching it. And I'm like, what is going on? But I had no idea that I was bald up there at first until I saw my security camera. Then when I saw it on my security camera, I captured it, started posting it everywhere, anyone who would listen. Then you have this thing out here, it's not called 5G. It's called Havana syndrome. That's what Obama called it without giving it more detail what Havana syndrome can do to you. So I'm going to give you some more detail what it can do. It can make your hair fall out. It can also manipulate your metabolism. The frequency can affect your bloodstream, your blood. It can cause you to get diabetes, give you heart attacks, strokes. It can cause people to have mental illnesses that don't have mental illnesses. It can cause crimes in your community. Like it can get somebody up and buzz, have them go out and shoot up a whole community or drive a car like they did in California just recently into a pile of people and hurt and injure a lot of people. And then they say, oh, they have a history of mental illness. They have been grooming this since they were children because this Havana syndrome has been on me since I was 6 years old. And so when I wrote my second book, I started connecting the dots back to when I was 6. So that's how I know. So not everybody who has a history of mental illness might not have had mental illness if it wasn't for the Havana syndrome operators, is what was told to me by this nuclear physicist, and his name is Patrick. I don't know his last name, but he was a veteran and he was a Marine and he retired. He used to watch nuclear bomb sites. And he told me about the Havana syndrome because I was describing it to him when I was in a base in his veteran's cab. This is Havana syndrome right now, and it's a veteran's cab. And I said to him, he's a white man, and I said to him, all of the symptoms that I was going through, what is it? I don't understand. Who else has this on me? And he said, it sounds like you have those microwave, infrasound microwave. He made me spell it out. Or he made me spell it out on my phone before I got out of his cab, and I spelled it. It's INFRA sound, SOUND. And I spelled it out, and I'm looking up, researching it, and doing so much, trying to find out why is it on me. And like I said, it's not 5G, because when David Morrison filed his FCC filing in September 2016, he did not file it as an infrasound microwave frequency. Magnetic is invisible. That's what it's called. And if you listen to Lester Holt, who did a documentary on NBC before he retired, Lester Holt is his name. And he did the invisible voice of the Havana syndrome, meaning that it could mimic your voice. You think it's your voice, you think it's God's voice, but it's actual somebody talking to you when nobody's around. That's how Havana syndrome works. It gets so used to your normal life that it could create a life of your own. It shouldn't be your own. I'm saying about my husband because of my cousins, which I'm going to get into that later when I talk about him. And porn, rape, and manipulated marriages and relationships. So it can also make you steal, have car accidents, school shootings, start fires, start arguments in your relationships and your family relationships. It can disrupt your relationships, have people commit suicide. This is all the things that I read in the FCC filing of David Morrison. David Morrison. That's what I read in his FCC filing, what it can do. But it can do so much more. So I was affecting my frontal lobe. My frontal lobe is where your thinking is, your cognitive thinking is, your memories, your emotions, like love, your desires, like whether you want to have chocolate cake or whether you want to have vanilla ice cream or whether you want to marry someone black or whether you want to marry someone white, whether you want to shoot someone, whether you want to run a car to someone, or you want to start an argument with someone. All of this is in your frontal lobe. All of this. So if your family is falling apart, you can believe me, and you're black, and you're living in a black neighborhood, believe me, it's been on you for a while because they have been tracking us as well as Martin Luther King and anyone else who has been in our black community like Malcolm X to be able to track and make sure that we don't get ahead and that we don't advance and having the majority on the planet and we control the votes, and the people who control the votes supposed to control the power. So that's what it's all about. And I remember listening to an attorney say, all this microwave frequency called Havana syndrome is the legal genocide of black people. They can cause car accidents for insurance companies, house fires for insurance companies. These are all Wall Street and the government. This is what I'm learning from my research. Because the more I read it, it's not an adversary. It's not someone from another country. It's right here. So I want to get into the last 15 minutes. I want to get into the part where it controls the mind. Now, you would say, but how do I know it's not my decision? Because it can give you multiple thoughts. Now, say, for instance, I want to go to a party. I decided not to go to the party. And then I said, I'm going to go to the party. And then I end up going to the party. Something bad happens. That could be a setup from the very beginning. And somebody would be like, I don't know if I know Havana syndrome. I don't believe in Havana syndrome. But although it's true. But all I know is that if you would have stayed at home, then you would have gotten in trouble. Things like that. Controlling your mind when you're falling in love. Like when I fell in love with my husband, I thought I was falling in love with my husband, but I learned that he was coded and symbolized around my cousin's grandmother, who was Miss Henrietta Lacks. And she had her cancer cells stolen from her in John Hopkins Hospital in 1951. And they put it in monkeypox, tuberculosis, polio, cancer drugs, HIV drugs, tape, dog food, Polaroid, lipstick, sent it to the moon in 64, tested it in an atom bomb to see for skin radiation, if they could come up with either a vaccine or some type of lotion cream for skin irritation. This is just a little bit. If you go to the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and you Google her name, Henrietta Lacks, Henrietta, Lacks, Lacks, I guarantee you'll see so much more coming from a black woman that they don't want the world to know that she's black. And she died on October 4th of 1951. And it just so happened that she was 31 years old. It just so happens, at least that's what I was thinking at the time. My husband was born October 31st, which is Halloween, 1964, which is the same year that they sent her cancer up to the moon to test it to see if they can make a vaccine for the Afghans. So when I looked at my telephone number, I was like, oh wow, that's weird. But okay. Then I looked at my telephone number, the last 4 digits of my telephone number is 0451, October 4th, 1951. And then when I lived in the Bronx, I lived in the zip code 10451. That's October 4th, 1951. So with that being said, they have been tracking us, my family, for a long time. And so my husband raised me for 36 years. We were in a marriage relationship for 20 or almost 20 or 15 years. And then we separated for another 15 or more. But he was raping me for 15 years and I didn't know it. And now we have 2 grandkids to show for it. So when I was talking about car accidents, I was talking about the time when my brother died, Ray, in the book Shall the Bough Break. That's when, after I heard the invisible voice that Lester Holt talked about on NBC News, that you can hear that mimics your voice because that's how fine-tuned it is. And it said that my son had to die because we were too famous for Ray. And I'm like, we were only on CNN and MSNBC, Associated Press. It's not like we got famous and rich just Ray. And I kept brushing it off my mind and brushing it off of my mind. And then a few days later, he was in a car accident, and he still had the injury on his head where you can see that he hit the steering wheel on his head. So, and then they told me that days before. So this thing here that's on my head, I don't know if it's the same people, that's what I keep saying, that's on my head, has been doing those type of things and making it as though it's God. But if God is a good God and a loving God, God won't do that to someone, especially after what happened to my brother. And especially with taking my hair out, and especially over a cancer cell, HDLA, which they stole and all the pharmaceuticals made billions out of, and have been trying to keep her story from being told. So I want to get into the part where it controls the sex life. It controls my sex life. It's like, how does it control your sex life? Well, while I'm having sex with my husband, before I was raped by other men, and I married my husband in my 20s. So any man after that is considered rape because it's someone that I would not have chose. Because maybe I would not have chose my husband if I known that they was using him to track him around Henrietta Lacks. I would not have known that. I would have thought just like I thought normal until 3 years ago when I learned the truth. How to control your sex life. But my sex life used to be awesome. We used to do all types of things. We used to watch marriages. We used to watch porn, married couples. We used to do all those type of things that spice our relationships. And all of a sudden, my water was turned off, or my lubrication was turned off in my sexual part, my vagina. And I couldn't understand that. And I kept saying it to myself too. My husband was like, it's like you get it dry now, I don't understand that. I never understood it either. But the problem was that they didn't want me with my husband. They wanted me out so that I could one day maybe bring them a trick or treat. Because my husband going on Halloween. Bring him a trick or treat. Meaning that I could bring them either another cancer cell that goes outside the body or having something else, another treat that could possibly make them billions of dollars and they could use and abuse me like they're doing now for the rest of my life. And as soon as I left my husband, and not left him, but we parted ways, and I went back to Virginia, they had me raped by a white man named Tommy England, and he is half Cherokee, he's half Blackfoot Indian, meaning that Blackfoot get the boot if you want to have it around the codes of my husband and the codes of where I live. I coded that too, and he's a Blackfoot Indian, and he's part from England. So in the state of Virginia where slavery began. So in a way they was trying to give us the boot off the planet by using this microwave frequency to destroy our lives, put us in jail, crime, break up our families, take our children from us, all those things. By taking your children from you at a young age, especially when you don't have a father or mother in the household. Grandma's raising you, they can use it for sports, entertainment, anything, and then have a story to tell about how your life is and how their life has changed so much since someone has changed their life, and sometimes it's not always a Black person. So eventually, my sex life, my water came back on, or the lubrication for my sex life came back on years after I met years after my husband and I had separated, and I was having regular sex, and I was having sex with one man, and I was like, I can't believe that I'm actually lubricating, because I couldn't lubricate for my own husband. Then I read that it could also control your sex life, so it can ruin your sex life. It makes someone feel like you can do what your body is made to do for a man, and and have you think that you can only do it, you can't do it with yourself. And that's when masturbation came into play. So when I was with my husband, I got a few more minutes, when I was with my husband, we didn't do all those crazy things. Only when I was by myself that I was having to masturbate. And then I learned that masturbation was part of the porn, because the porn was the manipulation to get me to like white men. Because I've never had white friends when I was in Virginia. The only white friends I had were those two, Tommy, his friends, and George. Those for 20 years that I lived in, I had no developed relationship with white men. So if you're a rich person, or you know rich people, you get next to them, you're supposed to always have white people in your lives. That's how the frequency is making me believe. So it was starting me off porn when I was by myself, but then I had to get a flip phone. I bought a flip phone because I got tired of them putting white women, white men, and women having sex on my phone when I wasn't even Googling it. When I was out, it would pop up. So I said, okay, I'm getting a flip phone. So I got a flip phone. I had a flip phone for a long time, but a flip phone doesn't do all the things that it needs you to do to be able to manipulate your Facebook, your emails, and all that. But a flip phone is good. You want to get away from all that, but it draws you back to it. So with porn, I looked at a few porn for a few years because I was single. So the whole time I was in Virginia, I did not have a long-term relationship. And then I learned that once I got to New York City, they were trying to make me gay. Of all the things that I've gone through, they try to make me a lesbian or bisexual. And I'm like, now how is that possible that I'm gay and bisexual when all I know is Black men and the white man? How is that possible? So they cracked my eyes. My head used to crack like eggs. That used to be in the beginning. It used to crack like eggs, and it used to sound as though my head was cracking in half, like I had a hairline crack in my head. And my nose used to bleed a lot, and my colon was bleeding so badly I had to get a colonoscopy, and the doctors found nothing, which was good because it seemed as though it was coming on my period. Then I went down to Overtown, Florida, and the same thing happened again, where I came on my period. So I've been bleeding a lot with this frequency on my body. It's something that should not have ever happened to me ever in life. So I want to say to you, there's so much more to talk about with the Havana Syndrome. This is just some of the things I'm talking to you. And like in public, it will manipulate my eyes. I'm cracking my eyes to look at women's butts. As soon as I come out the house, the first thing I see is a woman's butt. It used to make me walk around town horny, not just for women, but for everybody. Anybody who had a big butt, anyone who had long curly hair, anyone who was white or light skinned, and it made me walk around town horny. So I'm not embarrassed about talking about it because I know that that I'm writing my book, so I have no shame in it because it's shameful that someone would put me through this. It's more detail in my book because I think people need to know about that, and whether they don't want to know about it, that's just too bad because it could be happening to you and you don't even know it. And incest part came into play when I was a little girl on our farm because they were looking for a healer cell early, so they were grooming us for the life that they were giving us today. And it's a horrible life. But I've gotten a little bit better, I could say, for me. But still, it's not what I want in life. I'd rather be with my husband, although I know that he's coded around my cousins to track me. So I'm like a tracking device to track me. It's like, what do I have? So I want to get back to Hidden in Plain Sight, the book. Now, the book is probably going to be a series. I want it to be a series so that I can be able to write more about as the day-to-day goes on with Havana syndrome. It can do so much to you. It can give you a heart attack. It can stroke, your metabolism. It can give you headaches every day. I hear the buzzing now, like I have a beeping sound in one ear and nothing in the other for static, and then the beeping sound of the other ear, and then it's static. And this is 24/7. So imagine having that pain every day, every single day of your life. And I'm writing the book because I think it's a story that needs to be told more in detail, because when you can write something down, more of your thoughts come back to you, and when they come back to you, you can talk more about it in detail, so people can get a gist of what you were really going through, and not that you were going through something that was just explanatory and it's easy because Obama went to Cuba and followed Havana syndrome, but Obama didn't help me. How we got to know Obama? Well, we got to know Obama too. One way was that my stepmother, who went to Harvard, had a cousin who worked in Obama's administration. So she would get all these free, and I wrote about this in Shall the Bough Break. She would get all special invites to go to their roasting, Easter egg hunt, Christmas lighting, certain dinner parties. They would always get a special invite. And she got to sit next to Michelle Obama at the Christmas lighting at the White House. She used to tell me that she was just floored to have to rub elbows with President Obama and Michelle. And the other way I got President Obama was through his best friend, one of his best friends called Patrick J. Murphy. And he got us our attorneys for my brother Ray, who died in police custody in 2013. He also had put us on CNN, MSNBC, Associated Press, and all those other big and small news outlets were reading our story and calling us and asking us interviews to know about our story. I had no idea he was Obama's friend at that time. It took me almost 2 or 3 years to know that, because he wrote a book and he gave me a signed copy of it. So, although all that power, you hear all that power I'm talking about, it's still, I have the Havana syndrome. And it's only when Biden signed into law, it's only for military people. It's not for people like you, but evidence is there that I have it, and everybody knows it. So I'm going to get it all checked out. I'm going to some very good doctors. Yes, I'm going to see a psychologist. I'm doing all that I'm supposed to do so I can have what's going on with me, so that I can not only write it in my book to share with you, so you can say, stop acting like that. You got the Havana syndrome, and you got to act right. How do you get that to have decision making? Someone, how do you get it to stop, or how do you get to know the difference of Havana syndrome and your own decision? I say put God first. If you don't believe in God, put your religion first. If you don't have a religion, you get spirituality, you put your spirituality first. Put your principles on the Bible first. The 10 Commandments first. That's how you would break the matrix to the most of your ability to be able to do that. Clean up your neighborhood. Don't let people come in and buy a house in your neighborhood and you can't move back in there anymore. Don't let them steal your land. Don't let them manipulate your mind, and if you don't want to be friends with you don't want to be friends with your sister or your cousin because you want to sell the land because you need the money. Get a job and you'll all put in and build generational wealth. That's what you do. You don't fight each other to give up debt, because once that house is gone, somebody else is going to get it. And definitely when the government is out there doing that to us, because that's the other reason why they were trapping me. our family because they want to put solar panels on our land. My grandfather didn't have an elementary education and he acquired 100 acres of land. They want to put solar panels on it. And most of the land in the country we own, our family still owns it since the 1700s. So they've been in there digging into our families, going to all these libraries and public places and looking up who's there, who lives here, finding out about us, and harassing us for our land or trying to use this frequency on us to steal our land. And gentrified neighborhoods. They still trying to do that for years and they still doing it. Who's dead? I don't know. I was told it's Wall Street and the government are the only two people who owns and knows about this, besides Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk knows a lot more about what the government has, and he hired them to advise the government and try to make it a better deal for them to be able to allow him to do what he does with all the things that he's creating. And all of that to me is like what he did with the monkeys, try to get the monkeys to turn the TV on with their thoughts and eat with their thoughts, not their own hand or a robot hand. But they've been doing the crazy things to animals. You know, they've been doing crazy things to human beings. My body to do what I was told by guessing words. So I'm going to wrap it up. It was great talking to you. Always great talking to you. Sorry about the audio. For some reason, my phone always goes off when I get on to my podcast. So I don't know what that's all about, but that needs to be fixed. But if you were a optimist, you'd be like, just get it fixed, get it done. But if you were skeptical, you'd be like, oh, they don't want you to talk about Havana syndrome. Yeah, they don't want me to talk about it because it's in our communities. Malcolm X Boulevard, Martin Luther King Boulevard, in the hoods, in the rich people's neighborhoods, black neighborhoods too. Because they're the ones that are doing well. So if you got some doing well and some doing bad, then they won't know that everybody's being experienced on the blacks and the dead blacks. This is how it goes. Well, that's the end of my show. I love you and have a great night.